Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Getting them a day early, that's because the main card of this weekend is on a day early. It's taking place on Friday instead of Saturday at the York Hall. I unfortunately won't be there. I did initially plan to try and get the accreditation. Unfortunately, oversubscribed, and obviously if you guys have ever been to York Hall, you'll know that it's not the biggest areas for the media section, so I accept that. I think it's pretty much sold out in terms of actual tickets on the door, so I can't really go for that purpose either. And it's just a bit tricky, the timings, obviously, given the dog and the dog care and when to pick him up and put him to rest at night time. There's just a lot going into it. So, you know, since I didn't get the accreditation, we'll leave that one there for the moment. But as always, the picks have to be done. So I'm gonna speak about that card. There's a brief card to talk about taking place in Germany tomorrow. It's only the main event we're going to talk about with regard to that card. But yeah, look, without further ado, let's get into the picks and predictions and let's see where we get. Okay, so moving over to York Hall, there's 3 fights on the main card that are of note that you would at least deem to be somewhat competitive. So those are going to be the 3 fights that we're going to take sort of a steady look at. On the prelims though, I am obviously interested to see what Adam Macker does, still 18, to see sort of what he does in his 3rd professional bout against Juan Alberto Batista. Tia May Ayton, I'm very fond of so far, 2-0. 2 KOs. Be very interested to see what she does with Laura Belen Berito or some, I think that's how her name's pronounced. Again, can she keep the knockout streak going? Will she have to go the 4, the 6? You know, will she have to go rounds in this one? That would be interesting to see. But very high on Tia, and I definitely will be watching that bout even if I'm not at home. You know, definitely check out the prelims on that. Manny Buttigieg, he's also on the card against Christian Schremby, who I don't know, but having looked at the box recs earlier, Buttigieg is like 226 on box rec, and then Schremby is like 426 in terms of their placements. I think it's like 223 and 426. So yeah, that far apart. I mean, yes, it might be a competitive fight, but I've got no way of telling. So obviously I'm gonna just assume he's gonna do the business and then move on with his career. And you know, 9-0, I've got no issues with that for him. Taylor Bevan is obviously on the card against, I think, a guy called Lucas Forenza, or Feneza, I think it might actually be spelt. Again, it's a very 237 versus a 463 type box rec bout, so I can't really take too much of that. It's 5-0 against 6-3, so I'm expecting Taylor Bevan to do what he needs to do. I think this is his first 8-rounder, his 5th fight of the year, and his 6th fight of the year. And he may end it on this one, or we might be able to get back out one more time for the year to have 7 fights in his first pro year as a first debut as a pro. I've got no problem with that, the building fights, so yeah, no issues. Now is where we kind of get to, for me, the more interesting part. So you've got Shannon Ryan, aka Chaos, taking on Chloe Watson, and this, I believe, if I'm correct, I think they're fighting for the women's British, no, who's got the British title? I think Emma Dolan's got the British title still. I think they're fighting for an IBF intercontinental title, you know, something that's obviously going to put them in the IBF rankings at super flyweight, which I do believe this fight is taking place. Yeah, 115. Look, you've got Shannon Ryan, who is 9-1, obviously suffering a split decision loss to Emma Dolan, and you've got Chloe Watson, who is also 8-1, coming off of a loss in her last fight, which was a split decision to Jasmina Zapatochna. So Shannon is a little bit further into her sort of her rebuild and readdress to the top of the division, as she did come back already with a structured, well, a devastating KO victory in her last bout, which I believe it was also at the York Hall. I was there for that bout, and I think that was last year. That was last year December, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was last year December, because I remember I went there and I made comments about her having to train and everything on her birthday. That was against, I think, Emma Radomska, and then I think she also had a fight in May. Yeah, she had a fight in May as well against Farah El Busari, which is, so she's, like I said, she's 2 fights in, not one. Yeah, that's correct. She's 2 fights into her comeback. And looking at the styles of both, so Chloe Watson, I'm not thinking Emma Watson, the actress, apologies. Chloe Watson is she likes to come forward. She's very aggressive. She likes to sort of manage the distance, step in and throw flurries, and you know, she's got very good movement. She does have a good front foot game. Definitely likes to try and use that to get to her what she likes to call her safe space, to let her shots go. She doesn't like straight shots as such. She does like to arc them a little bit to try and get them around the guards, but she can throw in flurries and in combinations. Now, everything I'm saying could actually be totally inaccurate, considering that she's just got a new trainer, and we all know that sometimes a new trainer might try to reinvent the wheel, or they might just try to touch up on slight little inconsistencies or problems or issues that they see that you have. The fact that she's 25 and only 9 fights into her career could suggest that maybe they've implemented some wholesale changes. She may decide to hold her feet. She may decide to be more of a back foot counter puncher now. She may decide to be a front foot aggressive pressure fighter with a high guard. It's hard to tell. So I think her basic boxing fundamentals, though, is something that will definitely land her in good stead for this bout. Shannon Ryan, on the other hand, as I said, 2 fights into her new relationship with her new trainer, and she hasn't changed an awful lot in terms of the type of style she has. Again, because coming from that sort of, you know, that taekwondo, that kickboxing background, her stance is always going to be her stance. The way she sets up is kind of always going to be that. And the fact that obviously she's still kind of, while she doesn't necessarily practice the disciplines, I guess, as on a day-to-day, she still does. You can see her doing videos where she is still doing her flexibility training, her high kicking and stuff. So she does stay in a mindset of, you know, being able to use all 4 limbs as a, you know, as an effective tool and outlet for destruction and chaos. I think one thing that she has neatened up on is keeping her home hand close to either the chin or the top of the head when she is getting in and getting out. She still does burst in flurries, but the way that she manages to close the distance now is a little bit more educated than it was previously. She also is able to dip underneath a lot of shots and use her quick, you know, sort of the quick muscles and the quick twitch fibers that she's got in her calves to get into range quickly before the opponent has had a chance to sort of set. Then she lets off a couple of shots, couple of flurries, maybe might slip underneath a shot and then get back out before the returns come. Now, so far, obviously, the comeback opponents she's been facing, they've been of a level, but not of the level she was fighting before. So it's hard to see how much of the true stance has been implemented, but her mindset has shifted. She's become a lot more singular focused, and even to a point, she's become a lot less people pleasing. And that would probably even be evidenced by the lack of interviews or places that you've actually seen her of late. She's definitely locked in and, you know, trading in the gym to do the business. I think this fight ultimately is going to play into who's had the better time to adjust to their loss and to their now their refocus in career. I have to go with Shannon Ryan for that. She is, as I said, 2 fights into her rebuild. Chloe Watson, we don't know what hers is going to look like. Shannon is slightly older. She's 28, soon to be 29, whereas Chloe is 25. So in terms of just setting into that proper body, you know, that full body, that full strength set, you would pretty much say that Shannon is as close to her physical peak as she's going to be, whereas Chloe could still have some developing to do, some maturing to do. I think based on those factors, and based on the fact that I definitely think Shannon is the quicker of the two, and she has a style that's a bit more, it's, unless you are a perfect counter puncher or have perfect timing, it's very hard to deal with. I do think she's going to rack up a lot of the early rounds. The issue in this fight will be, can she last the distance? Because that has been a criticism of Shannon Ryan in the past, that maybe the gas tank does run on E quite quickly after maybe 4 or 5 rounds, and then everything else is about round management. The output dips, and when the output dips, the opponent has an opportunity to start landing and letting off more shots, and then she's just looking for the big one counter after that, rather than putting the punches together. But I think that they would have tried to address that as much as possible, and I do think that, like, she will sort of have a commanding lead sort of in the front half of the fight, and she will definitely look to keep the pressure up and keep the work rate consistent throughout the back half of the fight, to get a decision. Chloe can sometimes get flustered, especially if she's got an opponent that's willing to punch with her and not just wait for her to get off her counters and then sort of you go, I go. And I think because of that, Shannon is more likely to try and punch in between, while blocking, you know, sort of catch and countering as well. And I think just because of that, she will be able to get the better of Chloe in the exchanges, especially where speed is a factor rather than the accuracy. So yeah, I do think Shannon will win. I'm going to go for her to win by unanimous decision. I don't think it's going to be a split or majority like the 2 of their losses have been prior. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Speaking of, obviously, the cards, we've now got Jimmy Sains, he's taking on Troy Coleman. Now, I don't know a huge amount about Troy Coleman, but he, what I have seen of him, he definitely is right for that level. I believe this is for the English title. And Jimmy Sains, you know, he's, what did they call him? Did someone call him like the Brentwood Beterbiev or something like that? I mean, I wouldn't quite go that far, but in terms of, you know, just raw talent and ability, he has got something in the locker. So I do think that in this, he will have to show some of his boxing skills early on. I think that's going to be the key for him, and ultimately I think if he can establish those skills and establish the pace that he wants to set in the first half of the fight, or especially the first couple rounds even, then this is definitely his fight to take, and to take conclusively. I think because Troy Coleman, this is like, I won't say his last shot, so to speak, but this is his shot at the big time, his shot on a major platform, you know, in the cauldron that is York Hall. I can't see him going out willingly. So I do think he's going to give it his all from round 1 up until the fight ends. But I'm going to be bold here, and I'm going to predict that the fight does go the distance. I think that Jimmy Sains will win a unanimous decision points victory. Not necessarily having to go through any real dangerous moments, but he's going to have his work cut out for him. He's going to have to navigate the fight and navigate it professionally. But I do think that he will win the majority of the rounds at a canter. Then finally, you got the main event, Kieran Conway versus George Liddard. Now, this is a very interesting fight because you've got Kieran Conway, who's obviously been at this level. He's 23, 3-1. He's been at the level. He's lost a couple fights, but he's won some fights when you wouldn't expect him to win. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. Not only that, he's starting to find some of his knockout power. So he definitely has gained a lot more confidence, I believe, from that particular aspect. On the other hand, you've got George Liddard, who is also a very accomplished prospect, you know, from the Essex area. Very bubbly, bright kind of guy. Definitely will, you know, he comes to have a go. He comes to give it everything. 12-0. I think he's got like 7 KOs on the record, so not the biggest of punchers, but big enough for him to, you know, really kind of get the respect of his opposition. But I think, as much as he could be something of a prospect in the future, or could be a contender in the future, I think this one may have come a couple of fights too early for him. Kieran Conway, he's had 27 pro fights. He's lost 3, but again, he's not lost to anyone that you would consider to be not worthy. He's beaten better opposition than George Liddard has been in the ring with thus far, and he's 29, so he's right in those prime years. Like he's peaked. He's like the peak of his powers. He's close to his optimum strength, like his full man strength. He's, you know, his full speed, power, endurance. He's been there, he's done it, and this is like the level that he knows. I think George Liddard can get there, but I don't think he's ready for that now. Now, I do think this one's going to go to the cards, but I think that Liddard is going to suffer a couple of very, very nasty moments in there where he's going to have to gut check and, you know, really show that he's about sort of that process and that life. I think he will get through it. I think he will hold on towards the end and to the end of this fight. But ultimately, I am going to go with Kieran Conway to win it. Too experienced, too much, too physically strong, I believe, for George Liddard at this particular time and moment. Maybe they run it back in a couple of years and George gets his revenge. But yeah, I'm going with Kieran Conway to win. I'm going with him to win a unanimous decision. I don't think it's going to be particularly close where it's going to be a majority or a split. But that being said, it is a big Essex crowd that's going to be in there. You never know how the judges will interpret the noise for every punch that Liddard throws. But yeah, that's my prediction for that one. Leave yours down below and let me know what you guys think of that. Lastly, we're just going to quickly talk about the main event taking place in Germany on Saturday night, which is between Sarah Borman, who is the minimum weight, I think she's the #1 contender at minimum weight for the titles, and Yoro Karuki, who is a very accomplished Japanese minimum weight fighter. I think she's 20. I think she's like 25, 8-2. She lost her first and her third professional fights, but she had like long winning streaks after that, and since then she's only sort of lost to like really good regional opposition in Japan. I'm not sure if this is her first fight outside of Japan, because I can't remember her facing sort of anyone else from like Germany or Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, etc. from those regions. But she's I think the last fight she lost was maybe 4 fights ago, so she's on a 3-fight win streak. She's definitely not to be played with. She's a little bit, you could kind of call her the Derek Chisora of the minimum weight division. Like at a certain level, like she will cause you some problems. She definitely will beat you if you're not of the right ilk. Maybe at the top level she is found wanting a little bit, but she's also had a bit of a resurgence, which has made her name more credible again for this fight. 2 factors for this. Sarah Borman, she's 35, but she doesn't look it, to be fair to her. And Yuko Kuroki, I believe, is how old is she? She's 30. I think she's 33, 34. So they're of the same age, but Sarah's got home field advantage here. We all kind of know, if you're in Germany, they respect boxing more than the brawling. They respect the clean work, they respect the movement, maybe more so than that front foot aggression. And Sarah is slightly taller of the two, from what I remember, and I believe she's also got slightly longer reach. So I do see her trying to keep Kuruki on the end of her jab for the majority of the fight and try to just keep long range. I do think she's going to get major consideration from the judges in this fight. Probably not even undeserved, but even any close rounds, I think they will go to her. I think she will win a unanimous decision on the scorecards, and that's about as much as I need to say about it. But it will be a fun fight. If you are interested, I'll definitely be tuning in, or at least checking out the highlights if I can't watch it live. Those are my predictions for this weekend. Please let me know what you guys think down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that hype button if it does anything. I will catch you lot on the next video. It'll probably be one tomorrow, maybe Saturday morning. But for right now, Spaces Picks, locked.